Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the one, the only, Vanessa Hidary, the Hebrew Mamita.
I've had only 2 Jewish boyfriends in my life. My mother claims they're both the most un-Jewishy Jews in the world. One was a vegan who denounced circumcision, gave me a book titled Salt the Silent Killer for my birthday, and dragged me down to the Anti-Tax League on Lafayette Street. My mother found the brochures and said, "Enough is enough, Vanessa. I'm putting my foot down." The other un-Jewishy Jew was a drummer, a Palestinian activist whose parents were atheists and alcoholics. But his mother was Jewish, so by Jewish law, I was dating a Jew. My mother doesn't care who I date anymore. I say anymore because maybe she might have once in the deep forest of her mind had a minuscule and original blueprint for me. But now she just wants me to meet a nice young man that's not depressed. Depressed is one of my mother's favorite words. It is the reason why everything is everything. The books on our shelves growing up were When You Just Can't Get Out of Bed in the Morning, The Dance of Anger, and On Death and Dying. Now she's anti-self-help books. This life change all happened when she started dating Patrick, an Irish Catholic from Connecticut. My grandmother did not talk to my mother for 1 whole month because of Patrick. My mother said, "I had my kids with a nice Jewish guy, and look what he turned out to be. Ha, ha!" My grandmother said nothing. Then she cooked a full-course Syrian dinner for Patrick and only cursed under her breath once when he put ketchup on the sambusak, a fine Arabic pastry filled with kashkaval cheese that was now, as she growled, reduced to a French fry. I never spoke to my grandmother about dating outside my religion, outside my race, outside my age range, outside. Only once did she mention she thought marrying outside would be hard when you decided to have children. I guess she assumed that people who grew up with parents of the same race and religion grew up with no confusion, anxiety, or questioning of the world. Like me. A perfect example of someone who's completely secure and happy. It's a joke, guys. Okay. As I said, my mother doesn't care who I date anymore. She just wants me to be happy. I could date a Muppet, and if that made me happy, she'd be happy. I told my mother I was happy when I met my first boyfriend, Frank, in Hunter College. I met him on the bridge, the long walkway that connected the 2 main buildings and served as a hangout spot for ambitious lasses like me who were still cutting classes in college. Frank was Dominican, his full name Francisco, a name that always made me think of those explorers that you read about in the 3rd grade. He lived on Dykeman Street in a low-ceiling basement apartment where his dad was the super. He had a pit bull named Cyborg that was housed in a little gated area outside and ate leftover pasteles when dinner was over. Frank was my first real boyfriend. We always held hands, wrote our names in hearts, and went out to Dallas BBQ when he got his Pell check from financial aid. Everyone thought Frank was a real cutie. He used to date this Colombian girl, Damaris, from Queens, but Damaris smoked cigarettes and was what Frank called a real bonchinchera, which I think is kind of like a Spanish yenta. Frank and I used to get pictures taken of us on 42nd Street in front of large airbrush backdrops adorned with fake Gucci and Louis Vuitton logos. Frank posed gangster style, his arm draped around me while I clutched big stuffed animals. Frank was obsessed with giving me stuffed animals. He gave me stuffed animals for every holiday, every fight we made up from, every season change. They got bigger according to the importance of the occasion. For my birthday, I once got a bear the size of a small adolescent. There were stuffed animals he won from Great Adventure holding metallic balloons that said, "I love you." Stuffed animals where he filled in the cards around the necks. "Dear Shorty, I love you, Francisco." I gave him stuffed animals with suction cups that stuck to the rear of his car window. Frank had a car, which for a Manhattan girl was so fly. Let alone a car with a Dominican flag, a pina colada air freshener, which made me gag, and a glossy bookmark with Jesus Christ on it dangling from the rearview mirror. I watched Mr. Jesus sway from side to side and wondered if he was watching me, if Mr. Jesus thought I was the enemy. Frank and I drove all over the Heights. We drove to Fort Tryon Park and made out in the park. We drove up to his boy Ernie's house with a bottle of Cisco and made out on the roof. We drove up to the chimichurri truck that sold, as Frank described them, Dominican hamburgers and lemonade. And we went shopping. But we didn't shop at regular stores. We shopped at apartamentos, apartments that sold clothing like bootleg CDs. Stolen? Nah, just detoured clothes. Gap, Polo, Nautica, Benetton, Coca-Cola, and Armani clothes for half the price of Macy's. On a lucky day, they might even have Michael Jordan cologne and Timberland boots. We sifted through bags, pulling out baggy jeans and goose-down jackets. The fancier apartamentos had makeshift dressing rooms and racks. Merengue blaring, steam hissing. Frank wanted everything orange. Frank loved orange. I look terrible in orange and anything in the orange family like mustard. I can sometimes get away with a creamsicle hue. Frank tried to convince me to get an orange triple fat goose jacket that pulled in with elastic at the waist. I looked like a fat starburst. But Frank looked amazing in orange. He had that caramel complexion that looked good in every color of the rainbow. Frank would stand in front of the mirror and dance with his projected goods on. That was the only way he could tell if he liked something. He would make the guys, owners, whatever they were, turn off the merengue and put on his tape of hip-hop house from his Walkman, and he'd dance. The guys in the apartamento loved Frank. They'd set aside rugby shirts for him, and when he'd dance, they'd laugh and serve us coquito, Spanish eggnog in thick crystal glasses. One day, Frank stopped taking me to the apartamento. He had some beef with this guy, Caesar, who said to stop bringing up the Blanquitas, the white girls, from downtown to the spot, because they didn't want any problems to get DK shut down. Frank got so mad, he whipped a sweatshirt in Caesar's face and said, "You don't know shit about my girl. Fuck you and your cheap-ass shop." So Frank never went back to Caesar's apartamento. He found a new one on Dykeman, but he never took me. I remember for weeks I'd bug Frank. "You think Caesar thought I was going to tell someone? Like I was going to call the cops? Like I'd betray the apartamento mafia?" Frank didn't want to discuss it anymore. Coño, why are you stressing that shit? Stop thinking about that motherfucker before I get heated and crack that hick in his fucking mouth. I couldn't stop thinking about Caesar. I felt so bad that he didn't see me as a loyal apartamento patron. I was a potential betrayer, a spy. I was a Blanquita, and even being Frank's girl could not change that status. Frank's mother, Rosa, only spoke 3 English phrases. Hi, Vanessa, thank you, and Frank no here. Every Saturday night, Rosa would sit on her yellow velour couch and watch this Spanish TV show I found oddly fascinating called Sabado Gigante. It was like nothing I'd ever witnessed before. It was hosted by a very colorful and apparently popular character named Don Francisco. A 4-hour variety show filled with skits, talent shows, game shows, interviews, and the most gorgeous women dancing in tight sequin clothing I'd ever seen. Like Saturday Night Live, Jerry Springer's Price is Right, Star Search, Solid Gold, Showtime at the Apollo, all wrapped up in one. Where had this show been all my life? It was amazing. Sometimes when on Saturday nights, Frank would leave me to go driving around with his boys, I would sit with Rosa and watch Sabado. Rosa would bring out plates of warm rice pudding while we played a game of virtual charades in an attempt to communicate. She seemed thrilled to have company. Apparently, for some crazy reason, no one else in the house enjoyed the show. Rosa really liked me. So much so that she gave me a gold crucifix on a delicate chain for Christmas. It came in a bright gold cardboard box. Rosa had slipped it on my chair while I was in the bathroom. But as soon as I pulled away the little cotton mattress that covered it, Frank was livid. Mierda, mommy, she's a Jewish. They don't wear crosses. Coño, what do your people wear? I stammered, well, sometimes a Jewish star. See, mommy, un Jewish star. Frank snatched the box and placed it on my rubber placemat. And I don't remember what Rosa said back, but she looked so sad and embarrassed. And I just said, Frank, it's okay. I like it. It's beautiful. Maybe she didn't know. And then time stopped. I took the crucifix out of the box and had Frank clasp it around my neck. And as the lightning bolts roared, Rosa just beamed. Mira que linda. And there it was. A shiny crucifix dangling around the neck of was proudly bat mitzvahed at the Society of the Advancement of Judaism. Standing in the mirror in Rosa's powder blue bathroom, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it didn't have Jesus himself on it, no naked body, no wrists or nails, no head of thorns. Just a simple feminine gold cross. And I wore it everywhere. I wore it outside with the sun beaming down on my collarbone. I wore it to the bodega and ordered bacon, egg, and cheese on a roll. I wore it to the Hunter dance with Frank, and he had a big, thick rope chain with a cross on it that used to scare my mother. But now we look like such the cutie crucifix couple. I was Frank Shorty. It was my new costume, and I never felt so pretty. The only time I didn't wear it was when I went home. I would religiously, discreetly remove it when Frank hit the windy 96th Street bend off the Henry Hudson. Winter came, and it seemed like Frank spent more and more Saturday nights driving around with his boys. And then, After 4 months of regularly watching Sabado Gigante with my crucifix and Rosa, the inevitable happened. I began to understand Spanish. This became unfortunately apparent when I heard Frank on the phone with Oscar telling him they were going to go pick up Damaris and her girls so they could all go to Copa. "You fucking asshole," I screamed. Frank looked confused, scared. "You can't understand me. I've been home watching Sabado Gigante with your mother every Saturday night, you fucking idiot. What did you think would happen?" Frank reached for my arm. "Leave me alone. Déjeme tranquila." My God, I was practically fluent. All those hours of walking around with Rosa and Don Francisco and my costume in the Heights had paid off. I eventually broke up with Frank at a McDonald's on 178th Street and Broadway. For 4 months, I thought I might die of heartbreak. Rosa took it just as bad. Turns out for 6 months, she told every girl that called the house, "Frank no here." She even told Frank to tell me I could still come over and watch Sabado with her whenever I wanted. I was tempted. I missed Rosa's rice pudding and Don Francisco's booming voice. It wasn't the same watching it by myself on 88th Street. I took off my crucifix and put it in that private drawer every girl has, alongside condoms, cigarettes, and a naked picture of myself I'd taken back from Frank. I'm sure that's sacrilegious, but it felt like it should be there, amongst things my mother shouldn't find.
Oye, te hablo desde la prisión. Wilson Manyoma. Orgona.